Today's another episode of Bonafide Her Podcast, featuring the one and only Miss Brittany Cox Hudson.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. Shout out to Miss Pam for putting in a good word, because I was like, Miss Brittany. The name sounds familiar. I had to see your face. But she's like, you should have her. Like, I'm up to have people that actually play and, that still do it. So I'm here for it. So shout out to Miss Pam for the connection.
Shout out to Miss Pam. She's the best because she grabbed me and was like, you got to go talk to Ashley. And I was like, tell me who Ashley, like, where is Ashley? So gotta love Miss Pam.
Yes. So how you doing today?
Doing good. Doing really good. How are you?
Another day, another blessing. So I'm here for
That's
it.
right.
So
That's right.
So let's get to it. So Miss Brittany, can you tell us your sports story to how you got to where you are in your sports journey?
Yeah. So I grew up in the Triad. I played for a really good high school team. We won 4 state championships at Bishop McGuinness. I played with a lot of girls that played at a high level. It really prepared me for college. I was tested every single day, so that was a blessing. I knew from a young age I wanted to play college basketball, and that was a great environment to prepare me for that. I would say a big reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now is back in high school, I knew I wanted to play in college, and my parents did everything possible to make my dream come true, but we were flying blind a little bit. I think that was before social media had everything in your face, or YouTube and all those things. I always joke with kids, like, that's when Facebook got started, and kids love to laugh at me. But I did a lot of visits. I did a lot of underclassmen days. I did a lot of camps. And looking back, knowing what I know now, a lot of the schools I was looking at program-wise, style-wise, weren't probably my fit. And that's okay. But we didn't know what we were doing. And my parents just tried to give me opportunities. I ended up playing Division II, had a great career at Pfeiffer University. Grew a ton. I think it was a very different role than high school. I was dependent on a lot. And my high school experience prepared me for that. Again, I knew if I wanted to coach college, which was my dream, even in high school, I coached a younger AAU team. Like, the dream was to coach. My mom was a teacher. I love teaching. I love coaching. I always knew that was the dream. I also was always interested in entrepreneurship because that's what I got to grow up watching my dad run his own business and really build it. So I went on to Pfeiffer University, planned to coach forever, really networked hard. I got into the So You Want to Be a Coach program, which is like 50 kids or so across the country go to the Final Four. I got into that, learned so much. I actually had an internship with Duke men's and women's basketball program. I had to report directly to Coach K, which is like an idol for me. I know that's a hot take for some people, or a little divisive for those Carolina fans out there, but that was really cool. And it all led me to coaching at Campbell University for 2 years. Thought I would coach forever. I got to work for a legendary, like, Wanda Watkins. She was the first female fully scholarship player at Campbell University. Had a great experience, but my grandfather got sick. And I think it just put some things in perspective for me. And I decided to move home and focus on my family. And I had a major blessing, one of the biggest blessings, I think, at a hard time in my life, where I was a little bit at a crossroads. A job opened at West Forsyth High School. And all of it is like, it's so funny now looking back, it's all connected by God. Like, it really is. I was offered a Division I coaching job at home, actually, that would have been the dream job. And there was something in my gut that was like, Brittany, don't take it. And I mean, I cried for weeks because I'm like, God, why are you telling me? Like, what is this feeling in my gut? Why am I not wanting to do this? And then a few weeks later, I had interviewed for a high school job, didn't get it. And then I emailed West Forsyth's AD. I thought I saw an opening. It was West Forsyth in Georgia. So he emails me back like, we don't have an opening. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. 2 weeks later, the job comes open and he calls me, not even remembering that was me that emailed. And so, all these things, God kind of intertwined in these steps. Like, you can't make it up. I get to coach some of the best players in the Triad at West Forsyth. I was really, really lucky. I was a young coach. I was figuring it out. They dealt with me. They allowed me to really challenge them. They made me better every day. And we won several championships. 2019, we won a state championship. And a few years later, I got married. I actually in 2019, I got married. And then a few years later, we had kids. And that's when I stepped away from high school coaching and had no clue what was going to be next for me. And this teaching and then want for maybe entrepreneurship was still on my heart, and a lot of different things kind of combined. And now that's what led me to do Assist You. I also run the Blue Chip Fall League at Prolific Park and Rise, which helps me stay involved in triad basketball. But Assist You, I work with a lot of kids in their recruiting process. I just try to be the person I wish I had, that was honest but encouraging, just to educate and direct parents. I joked with you that how I would describe myself as a matchmaker for college recruiting. And what I mean by that is style of play and the types of schools that would fit you. I wish if I would have had that when I was in high school, just some of that guidance to say, hey, Brittany, this school doesn't fit you. It wouldn't have hurt my feelings. I would have just said, thank you for telling me so I don't waste my time, and redirected. And so it's a way that, when I first started, I thought it was going to be a passion project. It's grown into a real business, and I work with kids all over the country now. And it's been one of the biggest blessings of my life. I have 2 kids, and I always joke that Assist You is my 3rd baby. So that's kind of what I'm doing in basketball now. And it definitely keeps me busy, but it's something I'm passionate about, and I could do all day, every day, because I just love it.
For sure. I still love that. I'm a scout matchmaker, but for basketball, because I was it's perfect. Because because just like you describe it, if there's a certain type of player that may fit that particular college, that fit the system, it'll work. And yeah. I know some of the things you described, there's one of the conversations I feel like a lot of players or even people don't talk about is that period of time where, say, players who, aren't playing, but they try to find work even outside of their sport, that period of what am I going to do? I'm used to playing, I'm used to coaching, that yep. kind of that period, what am I doing? Trying, especially navigating the world, supposedly not trying to find a 9-to-5 job, but what am I
What's the next step? Yeah. What's your identity? I think it's always been intertwined into who I am. So, I've had several really highly talented teammates in the triad, and they all are very successful in what they're doing now. I can't imagine. I tried for a period of life after I had kids to not be in basketball. And I definitely don't know it all, but I do feel like God has put me here, and part of my purpose in my life is to relate to girls basketball players, through basketball, to help mentor and support girls basketball players. And I just feel like every step of my life has connected me to that point, which is, again, a blessing. But I can't imagine life without chasing this basketball.
Girl, as they say, ball is life, though, for real.
Right.
And this leads to my question. So you have both Assist You and Blue Chip Basketball Academy. Can you tell the people what is Assist You and Blue Chip Basketball Academy about?
Yeah, of course. I'll start with Blue Chip because that started first. Keyshawn Bishop started Blue Chip Basketball Academy way before I came in. He started that on the boys' side, and it included training, camps, shining a light on high school teams, JV teams, middle school teams. He really tries to focus on triad basketball. He's passionate about it. And actually, when COVID hit, he reached out to me and was like, hey, would you want to run the girls' side of Blue Chip basketball? And I was still coaching high school at the time. And I was a little hesitant because I just had you always feel like you have a lot on your plate. And then I saw what happened with COVID, and it really hurt girls and boys trying to play at the next level in terms of recruiting. AAU got canceled. It was just a weird year. And so I thought, hey, if we put this league together, we might be able to get some college coaches out, watch these kids, and maybe help them get some opportunities. So we started at Salem Baptist, and it was small. We had 6 teams. It was mainly individuals that we placed on teams. And it was awesome. We had college coaches in the gym. We had some girls get some opportunities out of our fall league in the first few years. I had a lot of my former players come back and work it. So it's just a really cool experience when we first got it off the ground. And now we're up to about 30 teams in our fall league, give or take every year, and 2 locations. And so again, for me, it's a blessing to be able to watch a lot of girls basketball, still be involved without, these high school coaches have to pour so much into these kids, and the hours it takes, it's a lot. And so I also just tried to support these coaches in the triad how I can. There were several coaches who played in our fall league who made a state championship run or made a deep state playoff run last year. And we just tried to support them, whether it was snacks or whatever it could be. I tried to reach out and support them because that's what the triad's about. It's a strong community. So that's been really fun on the blue chip side. We do summer league stuff, and Keyshawn and I are starting to build up some of the training things again. On the Assist U side, really Assist U is just about helping kids find opportunities to play women's basketball at the next level. I don't do other sports. I don't know enough about other sports. For me, I already had this network of college coaches that I had really gotten to know through the So You Want to Be a Coach programs, through internships, through working camps, through my experience at Campbell, that I was like, how can I use these relationships I have and help more kids? And originally when I started Assist You, I intended, my thought was the only people who really know who I am are right here in the triad, and that will be the bulk of kind of my client base. And my husband was in the process of joining the FBI at the time, and I thought we might have to move anywhere. And so I was like, this is something I could do that's fun. And it's taken off. Again, I don't know everything, and I'm very transparent with coaches and parents. If I don't know something, I'll figure it out, and I'll be honest. But one thing I am is like very passionate about, 1, women's basketball, and 2, trying to teach and mentor kids. And that includes tough love sometimes. That includes like, hey, we got to get better at this. And sometimes that's, hey, you crushed it. I mean, some of my proudest moments with Assist You aren't the kids that get tons of offers. We have some kids that have 20, 30 offers. That's not necessarily the goal for Assist You. My goal with Assist You was to help the kids who were being overlooked, or slipping through cracks, or didn't know which way to go. I was that kid. And so Assist You for me was like, I want to be the coach that I wish I had, kind of guiding me, encouraging me. Some days just saying, Brittany, you got this. Like, this is going to happen for you. But these are the things you need to do to get there. And so that drives me every day, to wake up and think back and say, or in every situation, and say, if this was me, or if this was my daughter in this situation, good, bad, ugly, like I want to be by their side and help push them to help their dream come true too.
Absolutely. And as you know, the triad, particularly Winston-Salem, has a huge, huge hoop history. Like, I love the hoop history here, like the legacy here. So, and this leads to my question. You have some of the great female hoopers to come out of Winston-Salem, like Whitney Knight, CeCe Byron, Celeste Burgess, rest in peace. Some of them that come out of Winston, and you as well. So for you, what does it mean to be part of the Winston-Salem hoop legacy?
I mean, honestly, I just want to try to add to it and support triad basketball. When I think of the legacy of triad women's basketball, I don't think that I've ever thought of myself as being necessarily part of it, because I grew up playing and watching some of the best, and playing alongside of them. Like Whitney Knight is one of the best. I grew up playing with her since like she was itty bitty, and she was over there. Her dad Vernon and I and my family were always pretty close, and even in like 3rd grade, 4th grade, he had her over there like doing curls with big Gatorade bottles. And Whitney was always a good friend of mine. And so even getting to watch someone like that be so successful in college, even after college, in a professional setting, for me, as someone who just loves basketball, I think that's why I have such a love for women's basketball, because I grew up in a space where it didn't come second to men's basketball. It never felt that way for me at Bishop, in the triad and AAU. Like I never felt that way. I know that women's basketball is really growing right now, but I feel like it's always been like that in the triad. And there's just been a lot of people to support. And even whenever I started coaching, there were so many coaches that I got to meet and know that were like, hey, I remember watching you when you grew up, and looking back and seeing, we won 4 state championships back in the day. That just felt like normal for us. Like, it was no big thing. And then when we won one at West Forsyth and I was a coach, I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is amazing. And it was just so different. So, my goal is just to try to add to women's basketball in the Triad and try to support it in any way. There's a lot of new, people in the Triad trying to support women's basketball and grow it. And I just want to be part of that any way I can.
For sure. 4 championships in high school, like that's like the Houston Comets flow right there. Like 4 straight. Yeah. And then you end up winning one as a high school coach. So it's like that's a whole like full circle moment, but in a different high school, but still it's like high school basketball. So, and this leads to my question, coming from playing, from the playing aspect, you win all 4 championships, and then transitioning to the coaching aspect where you won a championship as a coach. What was the process of being a player to a coach like for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So luckily for me, the majority of the teams I've played on, we've won a lot of games. My freshman year at Pfeiffer, we struggled. I knew going into it that it was a different setting, and I looked forward to that because I wanted to be part of the reason they started winning. And by the time I got to be a senior, we were in championship games. And so for me, I think the number one thing I learned as a player is that, like, you have to bring it every day. You have to be really competitive. You have to try to be your best all the time. You just have to compete. And that's one thing. I was never necessarily like the most talented, but I loved basketball and I was going to work really, really hard. I think for me, the transition was hardest from player to coach when I got to West Forsyth. As a head coach, you don't get to hide. Every decision is smack dab in the middle center. And I think for me, I remember my first year coaching, most of the stuff that I was trying to run or do or how I was trying to be a coach was kind of how my coaches did things. And I was just following the lead of what I've seen in the past and how I learned and what worked for me and my teammates. And I'll never forget, one of my players came and sat in my office and we were just chatting. And I'm like, why is it not clicking? Like, what's going on? And she was like, can I say something without you being upset? I'm like, yeah. And she was like, hey, like, we aren't you guys. One of my assistant coach at the time was Gina Simmons. She was one of my high school teammates. So a lot of our coaching experience came from our playing experience came from the same place, and the standards and how we did things. And, my coach in high school is very private and he's not a talkative person. I can talk for hours, but I thought so highly of him that I was trying to emulate him instead of be my own person and be my own version of a coach. And so I was trying to draw this big line between the kids, and I'm like a 22, 23-year-old coach, and that's hard to do. And I think once I had that conversation and she's like, hey, like, we're different here, like, we can do different things. She wasn't trying to tell me what to do, but it kind of opened up my eyes of my experience benefited me a lot, but I need to look at this group, see what their strengths are, who they are as people, really like not hold myself back from the relationship side of getting to know these girls, because the mentorship piece is so important to me. And it's okay. It doesn't make me less of a coach if I coach differently than someone else. And so I think that first year was a lot of finding myself of who I am as a coach. I'm really competitive, the balance of wanting to win and challenge these girls, but also, learning how to be a really good like high school mentor. That my first year coaching at West Forsyth, we were young. I mean, we finished the year and we had no seniors. So we had everybody come back. So I was learning a lot. The girls were learning a lot. And I think, again, to almost like towards the end of the career of coaching in high school to win a state championship, that's not something I necessarily expected. That wasn't even necessarily the goal for me. The goal for me was just to try to be my best for these kids. I think winning and losing, I'm very competitive. I'm one of the most competitive people you'll meet, especially back then, even more so. I think the older I am now, I realize it's a lot more than that. But for me, I just didn't want to let the girls down. And and when you're a player, you can control so much more. As a coach, it was hard for me to let that go, that like I have to prepare these girls, love these girls, push these girls, and trust that they're going to do what it takes to win. And so I think like finding myself, who I wanted to be, and then also the balance of, you know, how competitive I was and trusting that it's not all in my control as a coach. I would say winning a state championship as a coach was a million times more fulfilling than it ever was as a player, just because there was so much buy-in on that team, that those girls really trusted me. Those girls worked so hard. The girls who won the state championship were my first freshmen coming in. So like I was a first time head coach. They were freshmen. Like I felt like we built it together, and it was just so special. So, I definitely was not perfect. I look back and there's a million things I'd do differently, but I do feel like I gave it everything I had and I worked really hard at the time. And that's the same way I was as a player.
What would you say is some of the lessons that you learned from coaching that you have applied to assist you?
Yeah. I would say meeting every kid where they're at. I also think one thing I learned most at West Forsyth is sometimes, when I was in high school, I was a role player, and I used to look at my teammates who were being heavily recruited, and we had tons of coaches in the gym, and be jealous and be like, man, they have it so easy. They're getting recruited by all these teams. Well, some of my best players at West, when I was on the coaching side, I realized it's not as easy being on that side. There's a lot of pressure, a different types of pressure. It's stressful. And so it opened my eyes to, just because a kid is really talented doesn't mean that they need any less support. It might look different. I had some kids that didn't play as much, but they were like the most reliable kids that I had, whether they played, whether they didn't. But every kid needed something different from me. And that's how I treat Assist You. I always struggle when people are like, what do you do with Assist You? Because every kid is different. Like there's no two kids that I treat the same, and their process isn't the same. And I have some kids that are very introverted. I have some kids that need me to help support them, or like want to vent about things and we chat. Like I have some kids who have been really heavily recruited. And I have some kids who are struggling in their recruitment. So I just try to relate to them. I have a variety of experience in different things and try to relate to them. I think that's first and foremost. Like it doesn't matter what I know if a kid doesn't think I really care about them. And at the end of the day, when a kid finishes and goes to college and like finishes with my service at Assist You, I would hope that they would say that Brittany really cared about them and did everything I could to help their dream come true.
Absolutely. I think that's super awesome right there. And it leads to my question. You mentioned went to 5 year, which I just want to let folks know that just because D2 is D2 doesn't mean that they're less than D1, because anybody can go. I'm just saying anybody can go. Like they have competition. But from your experience, what would you say is the misconception of D2 competition?
Yeah, I think exactly what you said. I think there's a lot of, it used to be, there used to be a lot of misconception, and it's still now, that D2 basketball is not as good as Division I basketball. And I've seen it firsthand as a player. I've seen it as a coach. I've seen it as a person in Assist You. The director of Assist You, I've had several players play D2 and tear up some Division I schools, or have Division I schools call them and say, hey, we want you here. And they say, hey, I'm good. I like where I'm at. So I have seen a lot of people treat D2 like it's a backup. I didn't even know about D2 when I was in high school. I knew about D1 and D3 because I felt like when I grew up, that was those were the most schools in my area that I got to see, and camps and things like that. D2 is high level basketball. I mean, there is a history of tons of these D2 programs beating Division I programs. Obviously, parents and kids don't get to see the behind the scenes, but there's a lot of mid-major, low major Division I basketball that will not schedule in the SAC conference, which is a lot of North Carolina schools. there have been times where, you know, Anderson has beat P4 schools. Lenore Rhines have beat a lot of these schools. When I was at Pfeiffer, we were in the game with some D1 schools that, you know, some schools dodge it now. And it happens every year. You see these upsets. And when D2 coaches are recruiting, they're not recruiting second tier kids. They're recruiting the kids they think could have played Division 1. I also think to play Division 2, you got to be really well rounded. I think Division 1, you can be really you need to be really, really good at least one thing. You can be a little bit more of like a specialization player. Maybe I'm like the best at 3-point shooting, or I'm the best driver, I'm the best athlete on the floor. Where D2, I think you got to be the more versatile players, I would say, benefit. I think that's where I see a lot of D2 coaches recruiting. But yeah, D2 basketball is no joke. There are a lot of D3 players even that D1 coaches would fight to go get. You look at an NYU that's been so successful. You look at Scranton that won a national championship. Any of these like non-Division 1 levels, I mean, it's still really high level basketball. And so I also think just with the transfer portal, this 5-for-5 rule, it's going to make it harder to even go D2 now. And I think if listeners hear anything, especially kids, like, don't wait till it's late to pursue D2. You'll be too late. It should be on the front end, and don't treat it like a backup option or you'll be left out. And so, you know, I would encourage people to go watch some games. You can watch online, but it's really high level basketball. And it's really some of the best coaches in the game too. You know, Division 1, I feel like is starting to shift more towards like who's got the money, who's paying the players the most. You can go get the best players. D2, it's a little bit more of an even playing field. And, you know, that's why a conference like the SAC, you look at Conference Carolinas, there's so many teams going head to head at the end of the season because it's just a more even playing field. It's really good basketball.
For sure. And I think it's interesting because, like, you know, I had a conversation with someone who went to Leeds McRae, and, you know, the biggest thing we spoke about is, I always say, and I wholeheartedly believe this. I've told like some of the athletes that I say manage or coach over was one of the biggest things you need to do is go where you're going to be valued and celebrated and not tolerated. You know, is it everybody's dream to go to D1? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
But would you rather be at a D1 college and you just go there for the name and you just on the bench and you don't get a chance to shine until, like, say, senior year, where 2 minutes left, the last 2 minutes, and that's it? Or would you rather take your talent, showcase your talent at like a mid-major, D2, D3, even JUCO, change that culture, make it a good name for yourself, should be their first All-American, you know, for that school, make history in the record books and everything? And I always say, like, for me, I'd rather showcase my talent, you know, change the trajectory of that school, and, you know, make some type of history than say, like I said, then like just, you know, how long am I going to wait until like I get my chance?
You get an opportunity. No, 100%. I tell kids all the time, go where you're really, really wanted. You can't go wrong choosing the school that like really badly wants you. I think kids can tell the difference when they're really strongly being pursued versus being an option. And I think that, you know, there's also this misconception for kids of like, well, if I don't get D1, I'll just go D2 and play right away. No, like, it's a job. I mean, D1, D2, D3 to a level for all of them, it's a job. I mean, obviously, like, I'm still chasing orange basketball everywhere I go. And there were still days in college that I was like, man, I don't know if this is for me. And so, you know, for me, I was a role player in high school. So like, I knew I wanted to go somewhere where I could have a bigger role. I didn't have Division 1 opportunities. I didn't have Division 1 offers. And I think that was a blessing now that I look back, because all that it takes in preseason, all the sacrifice it takes, the time, the blood, sweat, tears, literally, like, if I wasn't going to play and I had the opportunity to play as a freshman, if I didn't get to do that, it would have been way harder. And that's why I'm a big proponent of going where they really want you, where you can be an influence and make an impact. I know that's not everybody's choice, and some people just want to be at certain schools, and that's fine. Everybody does their own path. But I think most kids who enjoy their college experience on the basketball court are with people who treat them like they're a steal and like value them day in and day out.
Absolutely. And this leads to my question, as a coach, a wife, a mother, and an athlete, how important is mental health to you?
Oh, I think it's so important. I really struggled at times in college. I struggled at times in high school, and mental health wasn't something that people talked about. I didn't even know it was a thing. I just thought something was wrong with me at times. Like, I'm so blessed. My parents provided so much for me growing up. I had every opportunity, I didn't need for anything. I go to college, I'm starting as a freshman, I'm playing a ton. Like, why do I feel not great sometimes, And I didn't know. And to be honest, looking back, like, I went through a really tough period when I was in college where, I'd go to practice, I'd go to my classes. I was a good student. Like, I based my worth off of performance. Even as an adult, like, I think that's a dangerous thing for kids in this space. And if I failed, if I didn't do well, like, I didn't know how to handle that. I didn't even know what I was feeling wasn't normal, but the way it would feel inside, I would take that out on teammates. I would kind of like exclude myself. I'd just go stay in my room or take a lot of naps or sleep. Like, I wish that the conversation around mental health happened whenever I was a student athlete, where I knew that I could go ask help and not be ashamed. That I wish I had people in my corner to say, hey, you're not tied to your performance. Like, your worth is not tied to your performance. You're a person first and foremost, and you don't have to score 30 points to matter. And that was really hard. And so I try to this recruiting process, the world of women's sports now, this new generation where they feel like everybody's watching them all the time because they grew up in this world of social media. It's more important now than ever to feel, one, comfortable. It's normal to talk about it. I think there's no stigma. At first, when the conversation around mental health came out, there was a stigma. No, like, I talk about this stuff with my kids all the time. And I feel like if you don't, I mean, it's going to set you up to break at some point, because there's so many things put on kids these days. And I think just having a safe place where you can talk to someone, where you can also hear, like, hey, you're doing a great job. You're all right. Like, you're not tied to, you had one bad game. How do we fix that? I see that a ton in my work now. And I think it's such an asset for people who, I have a lot of girls that I work with that are talking with, mindset coaches, they have a counselor, someone they talk to, someone they can trust, that's like not mom and dad, not me, no one connected with basketball. But in this day and age, I feel like it's such an important conversation. And it's something that I think is even important as you go into adulthood. Adulting is hard, man. And I think if these kids take advantage of some of those resources at a younger age, it just becomes more natural for them. And again, there's no stigma of feeling like you need help sometimes.
Absolutely. And I have one fun question for you, because since North Carolina is the hoop state. Hello.
Mm-hmm.
So my question for you is, everybody has their own, say, Mount Rushmore of hoopers, particularly say North Carolina, Winston-Salem, Mount Rushmore of hoopers, whether they're male and female, or vice versa. Both, if you could put them in both, cool. Or you could have like a female version of a Mount Rushmore or a male version of a Mount Rushmore. So for you, who would you say would be in your triad Mount Rushmore of hoopers?
Oh my gosh, this is so tough. You know why this is tough too is I feel like one thing, when we were in high school and we were so focused on winning a state championship, I knew there was a lot of really good basketball going on around me, but you can ask any of my teammates at Bishop, like, we were so focused on like our locker room all the time and just us. Like, the best competitors I knew about, I was playing against every single day. So I'm gonna cheat, and I'm gonna make it my triad, my Mount Rushmore of Bishop McGuinness basketball, because There was a lot of really good girls basketball going on, but these are people, and maybe not even just Bishop McGinnis, but girls that I got to play against. First and foremost, I got to play with Shantae Black once, and she played at Duke, and I was so nervous because she was going to Duke. That was like the dream for me. That was so cool. She didn't play at Bishop, but I got to play with her in like a little showcase event, and that was incredible. I have to put Whitney Knight on there. Whitney Knight used to ride with me after practice to go to the gym, or if I'd lift or whatever. Like, she's somebody that's always been really talented, but to see how she blossomed throughout her professional career and collegiate career is like something that she probably doesn't even know how proud I am of her, just because I've known her since elementary school. So Whitney Knight's definitely up there. I'm going to put Gina Simmons on that list. She was a teammate of mine. She coached with me. But for me and my personal life, she's made me so much better as a player and as a person. Gina also played Division II basketball. But every day I went to practice, I mean, we had players that went and played at Maryland, UVA, Whitney Knight. Like, I played against some of every day I went to compete with Gina Simmons. Like, she was a dog. She worked so hard. And she pushed me every day. How many more do I need?
You did 3. You got one more.
One more.
If you want to do one honorable mention, that's cool too. I'm here for it.
I'm gonna say Catherine Lyons. She was our point guard at Bishop. Catherine was really tough to play with when I was young. I was scared of her. I was so scared. She was so hard on us, but she was the hardest worker I've ever seen in my life in the game of basketball. Talk about holding herself to the highest of standards. Now that I'm older, I look back and I'm like, I'm so thankful that I got to play with her. She, I don't think I always understood her as a teammate, because she was literally the most competitive person I probably have ever met in my life. But she made me better in so many ways. And we won a lot of games because of Catherine and the way she pushed us in practice and the expectations she had for us. So she's going to go there too. It's a little cheating, but that's the route. Can't go wrong with some former teammates on there.
Man, you pulled a big one with Shantae Black, because I was like doing my little like who are some players from Winston? And I was like, I did not know she was from the Winston area. And I was like, oh, she was part of the Duke team that went to like the Final Four. She was playing with, I think, either Lindsey Harding or I think she was playing with Lindsey Harding during that time. I think either her or what's her name? Alana Beard. One of those. Yeah. I was like, man. And she was this close to win the championship too.
I know.
Maryland. I was like,
I know. Yeah, that was like a fangirl moment. I don't even know if I really played basketball that day. I think I just like tried to get the ball to her and watch her. Like, it was just so cool. That's one of the cool moments of basketball, is just getting to play against some of the best in your area. And I'll never forget that day. That was super cool.
For sure. And this leads to my question. You speak highly about your faith. So this leads to my question, how do you intertwine your faith and basketball simultaneously?
It's something that I learned when I was more so coaching, to be honest. Like, I grew up going to church. I don't think I ever really made it a priority. I think I always made basketball my priority. And in high school and this recruiting process, I feel like you're constantly chasing something. I'm chasing the next state championship. I'm chasing an offer. I'm chasing the opportunity to play in college. It's my dream. Then you get there and you're like, okay, I got to Pfeiffer and I'm chasing performance. I'm chasing scoring 20 to 30 points a game. I'm chasing wins. I'm chasing championships. I'm chasing these things. And when I got to Pfeiffer and I was really successful, I mean, I got a lot of accolades. And I felt empty. I mean, like, I don't think I was really necessarily like satisfied. And it wasn't like I felt like I needed more. I kind of got to the point where I really achieved everything I think I could have achieved. And I look back and I'm like, dang, like, this is it? Like, something's missing. Like, what's missing? And I remember that feeling. my senior year, and it really like shook me a little bit of like, I'm chasing all of this, but for what? And there's a Stacey Orico song back when we grew up, More Than Life. Like that's literally how I felt. Like there's got to be more to life than this. Like I thought performing and doing my best and reaching the pinnacle, I'd feel satisfied. I'd feel like I've done everything. No, I feel like I've never got that contentment in my life until I really made my relationship with God my top priority and was really intentional about learning about God, about what does that look like? Actionable, not just showing up to church on Sundays. I don't want to be a lukewarm Christian. Like I want to live in Christ. Like I want, when people know me, and I am tough. I challenge people all the time. I'm competitive. I can be all those things, but I still want people to be able to see God through me. And I also, in what I'm doing now, want kids to understand you'll never find contentment until you have a relationship with God. That's my true opinion. I never try to force it on anyone, but I've lived it. I've chased all the stuff. I've tried to be perfect. I've gotten all the accolades. I never felt as content and happy as I did when I started pursuing God. And I think the moment I started doing that and making that my priority, every door, everything that I could have wanted, God made it happen. Like it's almost funny how everything came to be, as simple as the job that came open. I was offered a job at High Point University, which was a dream job. And like, that was the first moment that I really I listened to God in my gut that was like, do not do this. Do not do this. And like, from that moment on, every time I pray and I ask. And so I'm not a perfect Christian. None of us are, but I can tell you, I found a lot more contentment and happiness chasing him than chasing any type of performance.
Absolutely. It's interesting you said, I remember that song because I was in middle school when that song came out. Like,
yeah.
I was like, oh, she pulled out that bad. I was like, I knew that. I remember that song. I was in middle school when that song came out.
a classic. And I was singing the song too, girl. But I didn't really know what it meant. And then it summarizes, I think, that moment of being like, nah, there's got to be more than this. But I love basketball, but basketball's not my purpose. My purpose can be put through basketball. But yeah, I try not to hide my faith because I feel like it's brought me everything. I'm so blessed and I'm so thankful. And I wouldn't have anything in this world without God providing it for me. Provision has always been like a few years ago when I was coaching or even got out of coaching. Everybody has these like New Year's Day or New Year's resolutions. I didn't really have a New Year's resolution, but I just had this word on my mind and on my heart. This was right before I stepped away from coaching. Because I had my daughter in 2021. It was right after COVID, and getting out of coaching was kind of on my heart, and I was praying about it. And there was just provision was the word, just provision. And I prayed about that a lot too, because I'm like, what does that mean? And I stepped out on faith and I got out of coaching and I didn't know what that would look like. And, I was a little sad. I was very sad about it for a while. I just kept hearing like provision, provision, provision. And I'm like, God, what are you trying to tell me? And now here I am. Like, I had no idea Assist You would become what it is. I had no clue the Fall League would become what it is. But I think when you step out on faith, God is going to provide. You're never going to go wrong chasing that. So I just wish I would have figured that out a little bit younger. It would have probably saved me some stress and heartache at times, just trusting. It's not easy, but just trusting that things are going to come together and he's got a better plan than anything I could plan.
Oh, I felt that. I really did. But then again, it's like, what lessons would we have learned if we didn't learn those things along the line?
Yeah, facts.
And this leads to my question, if there was a word or phrase or even a scripture to describe your journey so far, what would it be?
Great question. I think for me, there's several parts. So I'm going through my Bible plan now, in order, and I read, they have some explanations to connect the dots and things like that. I've had moments in my life where I feel like I'm asking God a lot of questions. and where I'm like, why me, Lord? Why me? Like I've been faithful. I've been good. I did what I was supposed to do. I followed the rules. Why, Lord? So there's moments in my life that I look back and I'm like, ooh, that was me. And God had all these things planned for me. Um, and then there's also a Bible verse that talks about, God is going to cut the branches of your life to bring new fruit. And that for me is something I've related to strongly in my adult life is, I think in my field as a coach, you can try to do a lot for a lot of people and it can feel heavy trying to carry everything for everybody all the time. But sometimes like God needs you to cut things out of your life to bring new fruit into your life. And you have to trust that. And you don't know what's going to grow until you cut some branches. But as long as you stay connected to God, you're set. And I think that is for me, one of the biggest things that I've learned. And every time there are a lot of stories in the Bible where people don't believe, all the Israelites saying like, we're hungry. God's not providing for us. We want to go back to Egypt. And then the next day he's got bread flying out of the sky right to him. And it's just like, when you really, that's what I mean. When you really start going through your Bible and reading stuff, it's like, this is way beyond my understanding, the way that God provides. And he's got way better plans for me. And sometimes, I mean, you have all these prophets who ask God for these things and to make water, and they just have to knock a rock a few times and he's providing for them. Sometimes you just got to ask. And I think that's one thing I had to learn as a person, pride. I used to be a very prideful person. I still can be sometimes. You just got to ask God and he'll provide it. So that's the biggest thing. I think those are some of the areas that I feel like God has spoken to me through the word lately.
That's real. It's like ask and you shall receive, and ask, knock and you shall receive. And then it's just interesting. You mentioned like if you just knock the rock, the water come out. It's like, oh, that's Moses. There you go.
Yep.
Boom.
Yeah.
Like,
it's happened multiple times throughout the Bible. Just people dying, bringing them back to life. Just there are so many examples in the Bible of like not just faith, but faith in action and really calling on God. And David had so much faith in God. Everybody knows like the David and Goliath story, but there were so many examples of David, and he wasn't perfect either. I think that's, to be honest, like reading the Bible through, I'm a perfectionist. And I think one of the biggest parts of adulthood is me realizing that's not attainable. And reading the Bible, though, and reading about some of the people who are the most connected to God, David being one of them. And he still had flaws. He still messed up. And there still wasn't a moment that God didn't provide for him, that God didn't care for him, that God didn't protect him, that I'm sitting here like, man, I've been chasing this forever. And it's been in the word the whole time that it's not attainable. I mean, it sits there and says like, David knew the Lord and the Lord knew him. Like they were very, very close. And he still really messed up in some big ways. I wish I had that connection more deeper on a deeper level when I was younger, to know like even some of the best people in the Bible that knew the Lord on a deep level failed and they were still loved. And, I think that could have helped me at times when I felt like a failure myself.
Think about it, like even Solomon, who was David's father through Bathsheba, one of those things that he messed up with, that that's one of his, but still God still loved. It's like even Solomon, who loved God, and the one thing that God said that you could ask for anything what you want, and Solomon said, I want wisdom. I'm asking for wisdom. And then his biggest test with that wisdom was the two women with the baby. Like, whose baby is this? Like, that was just, so even Solomon, who was considered the wisest man, messed up big time when, if you know. So
if you know, there's a lot of people in the Bible where it says they serve the Lord and God provided for them and they screw up a lot. And honestly, it has been a relief for me to read that, to just know, everybody always says like, you don't have to be perfect. God doesn't need you to be perfect. He will meet you in the lowest spot. there are a lot of people in the Bible that God, the widow, he meets people where they're at, and you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to chase him. I did go through like a really hard time coaching early on in my career. And it really like shook me and questioned. And I went to church with my boyfriend or fiance at the time. I can't remember. And there was a song that came on. What was the song? And I cried. Like I just sat in church and cried. And oh my gosh, it's going to kill me if I don't think about it. But basically he's saying, I'll look for you anywhere. Like I'll have to send it to you afterwards. But I listened to that song for weeks and I just cried. And I really felt in my gut. I was like, God is talking to me through here, like through this. I've got to chase him. Like I've got to chase him as much as I want to chase being a good coach, being perfect. And I know it's Sam. I got to find this. Literally, it was all I listened to for like months at a time. But he was like, no matter where you are, you're the 1 out of the 99. I'm going to chase you. Like God's going to chase you.
Oh, I know. It's like, I know this.
It's going to kill me.
It's like,
leave the 99.
Oh, I know that song. Oh, I know that's because I hear that
Reckless
song.
Love. Reckless
Yes,
Love.
that song. Oh.
Yes, Reckless Love. You've been so kind to me.
You've been so good to me. Oh, the overwhelming,
yes.
reckless,
never-ending, reckless love. It chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it. Like that's something I like. Ooh, like you can't earn it. I don't deserve it, but you give yourself away.
Mm-hmm.
Like God does that so well. That also just challenged me, man, as a coach of like, I was so tough as a young coach, and I really pushed kids hard, and like reading that and singing that. And I'm like, man, like if I want to be like God, I got to like make people feel like they don't have to earn love and they don't have to chase it. But, that's what I aspire to do. But yeah, that song wrecked me. And it just really opened my eyes to what I was missing out on, I think, in my faith. And so something I'm still chasing and something I'm definitely still like learning and growing in.
I was just going to say that's a classic song because
I love that song, girl. It's a bop. It's so good.
It's a bop.
Reckless Love, Corey Asbury. Can't believe I forgot the name of it.
I heard this song. I've heard the cover of it by Israel Houghton. That's it. I've heard that one too, the original version. I heard the original version. Then I heard the cover. It's like, oh, well, same thing.
I gotta go look it up. I look it up. I don't know that one.
Yeah, so this leads Israel Houghton. He's the guy that sang Alpha Omega. You are the Alpha and Omega. Yeah, that one. So, but and then Lord, you are good, and we worship. Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Yes.
So I have a whole gospel playlist, worship songs somewhere. It's in here. I know it's in my phone. I have it still. I just happened to use like a Maya Moore cover for it because I was like, this is this is like my representation of, hey, I love Maya Moore. She's my goat. And she was about her faith, and she didn't just talk about it. She was about it, and took a sabbatical, and then she did what a lot of people would not probably do, and did what she did. So
that's right. Yep. She made a very unpopular decision. And I mean, everything I've read is that she's never looked back and never had a regret,
I just know, to me, she's the GOAT to me in WNBA. I think to me, she's the GOAT. I know some people like, well, look, you try winning a championship every other year in 4 of them things. And not to mention, you are signed with Air Jordan and have a shoe with Air Jordan.
Yeah.
And you got 12 rings. Matter of fact, you got 12 rings, not only in college or in high school or in professional, but you got rings with the overseas. You got rings with and gold medals with the USA. So yeah, I'll take the 12. Yep. And she has the
generational.
I just want to say thank you. Generation, that's perfect. So
generational.
Period. So this leads to my question. I always ask my guests this question. So Bonafide means authentic and unique. So what makes Miss Brittany Cox Hudson Bonafide, and what makes your story stand out?
I just think I'm a very transparent person. Everybody that knows me probably knows I'm a little too transparent sometimes. I'm straightforward. I just like to drown the noise out. Like I don't like to be fake. I want people to know who I am and what I stand for. And I think that's kind of why I've been successful, is people know what they're getting from me. What you see is what you get. What was the second part of that question?
What makes your story stands out from others?
I would say what makes my story stand out is I thought I knew it all. Like I think I thought I planned, I executed, I did everything the way I was supposed to, and it still changed. When I grew up, my dad used to always say, like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And I would laugh and be like, you're like 40. You should figure this out by now. I had everything planned. I had the perfect GPA. I got all the accolades, like, and I can sit here and tell you, like, I did all of that and I still didn't know what I was going to do. Like, I still came to that moment, and I can sit here and say, like I told you before, like, it was God that led me to where I am now. And it's him. Like, what I'm doing with Assist You, it's him. What I do next, it'll be through him. And again, it's a full circle moment. I really think that God has used this sport to show me his power and what he can do through me, to me, with me. And so for me, I think, like, I still sometimes can be the person who thinks that, like, they know, and I'm opinionated, and I'm going to say my opinion, but I'm also, like, very humbled by the power of God, like our God. I really am. And that's something that I think, like, people will know genuinely through me. Like, I'm a very sensitive person because I take everything very seriously, because I know what I've been gifted and what I've been given, and everything that's, like, literally, it's the craziest story ever. My story is way too long to get into the details, but every little chapter has been interwoven in a way that I could have never planned. And I'm thankful for where it's led me, and I'm thankful for where it's headed.
One thing I learned is that God will laugh at your plans. You could make all the plans you
100%.
want, but he will laugh at them like, ha!
100%.
All right, then. That is like
100%. What's crazy is, if I would have had a plan with Assist You, it would have never taken off, because I would have overthought it. I would have tried to workshop it too much. I had this idea. I had a phone call with someone who I've got a coaching friend who's great. And we were just talking about, partnering in this way. And I was like, well, I've been thinking about starting this business. He was like, well, why don't we do a trial run? That trial run never ended. It's just grown into like, this has been, that literally was the story. There was no business plan. There was no, I'm learning how to be a better business person. I am a coach. I love to love kids. I jump in headfirst on that part. But had I had to start on the business side and just prepare, God knew that I would have got it in my own way. But he took it. He put this opportunity in my lap, and I was like, I can't turn it down. Let's just test this out. And then 6 months, 12 months later, my business doubled. A year later, it tripled. And now I'm still sitting here like, what do I do next? Like, because I've learned now, the girl who used to plan it all and have a plan for literally every single thing. All my friends can tell you, I have no plan now. And I try to trust and just work really hard at what I do and follow the steps that I see God lay out before me, and pray a lot. But yeah, it's so funny getting older, all the things you hear as a kid that you're like, yeah, okay, like, I can control these things. But yeah, I think that's what makes me so authentic. I can sit here and tell you, like, some of the things I've been most successful on are not the things I planned out, for sure.
Girl, as they say, because God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. So, but
Amen.
Amen. So, Miss Brittany, can you let the folks know where they can find you, support you, and any upcoming events happening your way?
Yeah, so we start the Blue Chip Fall League September 13th at Prolific Park in the afternoons on Sundays, at Rise Indoor, starting at 5:30 on Sunday nights. 5:30, 6:30, 7:30, we'll have games. It'll be a good time at Rise. Assist You can find me at assistyourecruiting.com, or Assist You Recruiting on Instagram, and Assist You on X. Follow us. anything that you need help with, give us a shout. Any way we can support women's basketball, let us know.
Y'all be sure to follow the one and only Miss Queen, the Queen herself, Miss Brittany, at Assist You Recruiting on Instagram. And be sure to check out the Blue Chip Basketball Academy as their fall league is coming up, because, you know, it is all year round, y'all. Basketball is all year round. There ain't no, it's not seasonal. It is all year round. So be sure to check that out. Be sure to check out the live replay of Bonafide Her podcast, episode 266, featuring the one and only Brittany Cox Hudson after this. Thank you, guys.